Now, the thing is, in the brain itself, there is an area that is referred to as the pleasure area. And there's another area which is called the pain area, but it's actually not a pain area, it's an unpleasure area. And these can be stimulated. Even animals have it. So a famous Russian scientist, Pavlov, he actually stimulated. You can put an electrode into a rat's pleasure area, and the rat will, continue wanting that to the extent of not taking food, and for the pain area, he will do the exact opposite. So we actually have areas in the brain that get triggered by various things. So there's an electrical trigger. There are also chemical triggers. There is dopamine, there is serotonin, there is acetylcholine, there is norepinephrine, there is histamine. There are various neurochemicals in the brain that are also responsible for this. Now, why are people unhappy? Okay, fundamentally, what is it that makes people unhappy? And so, I could divide them into just a couple of reasons. And in fact, addiction has to do with this, because when you take things that cause addiction, those chemicals and agents go and stick to those areas of the brain. Now, the brain cannot get stimulated by anything else. The pleasure area only gets stimulated by the things you are addicted to. So, that explains addiction, because when the pleasure areas are now only one thing is taken control over them, now nothing else gives you pleasure. Okay. And that is the cause for addiction. So in other words, in the brain there are these two areas. So happiness is actually neurochemistry. Okay. And it's so neurobiology and neurochemistry both combined.
Like, how would you explain happiness to something that's never felt emotions?
Okay. No, so when this area is triggered, and it has dopamine is a very important part of that. You just have a feel. There's this feel good. There are times when things happen, you just feel good. It may happen that you've done a great podcast and you just feel good after that, and there may be times you've done a podcast and you're not feeling so good. So there is a part of the brain that gets triggered. Now, different things, different events, different circumstances, different people actually trigger your pleasure areas, and conversely the opposite, right? So for the brain, by the way, they are the same. The brain does not make a distinction between the pleasure and the pain areas. For them, it's just two parts. Okay, we are the ones that either feel good or don't feel good. All right. So that is the distinction. But the fundamental, when you analyze it from a neurobiological point of view, why is it that people are unhappy? Okay. So one of the reasons is that our brain, because of what is happening in the subconscious mind, doesn't remain in the present moment. Okay. It is either, because of what has happened in the past, either there is a constant triggering of things from the past that make you unhappy and trigger the unpleasure areas. Okay. Or there are fears about what will happen in the future, which are also connected to what has happened in the past. And so lower animals actually, who don't have a complicated brain like us, are in the moment. They just live in the moment. Okay. There is no past for them. There is no future for them. So one of the problems of humankind is that our brain doesn't let us be still in the moment. It's always living in the past or the present, again, because of the subconscious,
Past
not
or
the
the future.
conscious. Past and the future, yeah. Again, it's the subconscious which is now, not letting your conscious mind be in this moment. That is reason one. The reason two is a constant gap between what you have and what you want. So humankind, there is a constant, you want something and you don't have it, and so you're unhappy. Now this could be material possessions, it could be things that you do, it could be emotional pursuits, it could be whatever. And then I often ask myself, if it was that simple, then when you get it, you should be happy, right? So, and then I realized that what happens is that the goalpost keeps shifting. So a person who doesn't have a car might be happy with a simple small car, But the problem is when he gets the small car, he's now looking at the mid-size car, okay? And when he gets the mid-size car, he's looking for a high-end car. And when he has the high-end car, he's looking for something even better. And I remember Osho, Rajni, when he He was spiritual guru, but when he died, I believe he had some 80 plus Rolls Royce cars, because his dream was to have one Rolls Royce car for every day of the year. And then I realized that, well, if a guru was not happy with 80 Rolls Royce cars, then obviously, you know, material possessions, this trying to bridge this gap doesn't work. The other thing is spirituality and meditation, which says accept what you have. That's the other side. Whatever you have, you accept it. Well, that's easier said than done in today's world, because today's world is a materialistic world.
I have a bit of a philosophical interjection at this point. So there's a story about someone who went up to the Buddha and said, Buddha, I want happiness. So the Buddha responds by saying, remove the I and you've removed ego, remove the want and you've removed desire. What you're left with is happiness. And this is
Very
effectively the
interesting.
philosophy behind the neuroscience you just explained.
Yeah. And but I have a simple solution for that. I mean, a simple solution so there is the spiritual side, there's the emotional side, and there is the material side, right? So I did something interesting. What I did was, when I realized that there is no end, that no matter what you have, you are still going to be unhappy. I did something interesting. Many years ago, couple of decades, I actually, people look at life ahead. What I did is, I went to the end of my life. I said, I reached a point where I said, now the time when I will part from my body. And then I looked backwards at my life. And I said, okay, at that point, when it is time to leave this body, what all should I have been, done, and had, that at that point, I can leave stating that, feeling that I lived a complete life. And I actually sat down. I took a piece of paper and write down. It's amazing. That list is almost 3-4, one by one, those things are just happening. I put it down on a paper. I've never looked at that paper again, right? So I decided that now I'm not going to be craving for anything more. Yeah. I'm just going to, I've already decided this is what I want. And it's a one-time thing. You do it one time and you let it go. It gives, surprisingly, it gives you a very tranquil kind of no wanting anything more in your life feeling.
Yeah. Let's speak about tranquility a little bit.
Yeah.
Coming back to what you said about happiness and sadness and the different parts of your brain that are stimulated by either of the two.
Yeah.
Does there exist neuroscience related to manipulating those two regions? Because I would also assume that too much happiness is also not good.
So the pleasure and the pain areas, they are separate. They are about feel good. All right. Now, the tranquility you're talking about is all about balance. Okay. So in our body, so the brain has neurotransmitters. For example, there's acetylcholine and there's norepinephrine, one that stimulates you, that is responsible for the fight and flight reflex, one that calms you down, right? For every chemical in the body, there is one which does the exact opposite. And tranquility is all about balance. The universe is all about balance. Nature, if you see, it's about balance. The earth moves around the sun and the moon moves around the earth in beautiful, harmonious balance. The tides are in a state of balance. In our body, our chemistry, our hormones, our muscles, if your biceps does one thing, there's a tricep that does the exact opposite. So tranquility is not about more or less. It is about balance, okay, of having the right amount of everything. So you're right. Just stimulating the pleasure area also can lead to a complete different state of mind. Okay, it can, you can actually become manic with a whole lot of that feeling.
It leads to a hedonistic lifestyle.
Exactly.
I would assume.
So it's just balance. Everything needs to be balanced. And once you get that, life is got to be a state of balance. The word that I use for you, equanimity, is a very nice word, which is all about balancing out. Everything, once you do that and you respond to situations in life the way they are and not the way you expect them to be, right? You accept people the way they are and not the way you want them or not want them to be. You take circumstances in life the way they've happened, not the way you would want it to happen. This kind of equanimity or tranquility or balance, which is directly connected to the neurotransmitters in the brain, directly connected to our neurochemistry, this happens.
Okay. Hey, if you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic as long as you're willing to search for it.